Welcome to the Ohio Valley Sports Blog video podcast. I'm BJ.
I'm Cody.
I'm Ian.
All right, let's start out with some Super Bowl talk, or what was called the Super Bowl. Ian, how shocked were you?
I was blown away. I mean, it was crazy to think because, in my opinion, Seattle's been the best team in the league the entire year, and they played their best game in the game that mattered most, which was the last one. It was just a ridiculously dominating performance from start to finish. I mean, within 12 seconds they were on top. It was just a unbelievable performance by that team, and I can tell you, I don't think anybody in their right mind saw that coming at all. Like, it was complete dominance from start to finish. I have never seen Peyton Manning look so confused by what he was seeing from a defense in my life. And Sunday night, the Seahawks just completely made that offense obsolete. They really did.
Yeah, it was. I know Peyton Manning didn't want to hear the word embarrassing about the performance, but I don't know any other word to use. I mean, just to get dominated. When that snap went over his head, I mean, just from there on out, nothing went right. I mean, it was just dominance. You probably have to go back to the Buccaneers and Raiders Super Bowl to remember a Super Bowl that was just start to finish so dominant. But even then, that one wasn't. That didn't even compare.
The only one that I can think of that was anywhere that close was the Ravens Giants one in like the early 2000s. I mean, that was about the last one I can remember that was like that dominant of a performance.
I mean, how good is Seattle's defense? I mean, with all of them under through at least next season, with all of them under contract.
I mean that Seattle defense, they held Peyton Manning to 279 yards passing. He was coming into the game averaging 340 yards per game. And in terms of running the ball, there was no running game. There was 27 yards rushing yards allowed, and Denver's average going in was 117. Like, it was just dominating, I guess, is you had the team that scored the most points in NFL history with 606 scored 8 points in a game.
Mm-hmm.
And it took them to the end of the third quarter.
It literally took them all of 3 quarters to get that.
And then nobody saw that coming. I mean, Peyton Manning, not only did he look confused, BJ, he looked old. Like, he just, I don't know.
That's the first time you've ever been able to say that about Peyton Manning.
Right. I mean, and they were trying these short swing passes and these screens, and you don't throw a screen pass against Ken Chancellor.
No.
Like, you're not going anywhere. And
I mean, the thing is, they tried that, but Peyton Manning just was under so much pressure the entire night from that ridiculously quick Seattle defensive line that he never had time to get anything off.
I mean, he was only sacked one time.
But he was under so much pressure. The hurries, the knockdowns, everything.
I mean, 4 turnovers. A pick 6. The one thing you can say, though, is Demaryius Thomas, you can't fumble that football.
No.
At that point, it wasn't a complete and utter blowout. There was time left in the game. I mean, we've seen Denver put a quick 21 on the board in 3 possessions before, and he just fumbles the ball away, and that
was it.
I mean,
from there on, that was it.
Let's be honest, though. I think we all think the dagger, though, was Percy Harvin running the second half kickoff back. At that point, you were like, well,
that was it.
What else is on TV?
Denver had to come out in that second half and just they had to get the first score, and Seattle just takes the opening kickoff of the second half and just houses it. And that was it. Like, you could just feel every trace of momentum just was gone now. There was no contest after that.
Hey, Ian, you want to hear a relevant stat?
What's an irrelevant stat?
Peyton Manning set the most completions in Super Bowl history.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm sure he'd much rather gotten that win.
No, I'm pretty sure he wanted that record.
Well, okay. I mean, I don't know how he thinks.
So with Super Bowl behind us, way early prediction for your Super Bowl champion next year.
Seattle. How can you not go with Seattle? You have Seattle or the 49ers. It's coming out of that division again.
I think I'm going to go with a kind of dark horse, and no, it's not the Cleveland Browns.
Oh dang.
And it's kind of weird to say that they're a dark horse, but I'm gonna say the New England Patriots. I think Tom Brady's got one more in him. I really do. I think he's got one more left in him, and I think next year is gonna be it.
DJ,
I don't know how you can't go with Seattle. I mean, after watching
pick
them,
somebody else.
pick someone else
Yes.
because you picked Seattle, right? Okay. Well, under that, I'll. Seattle.
Okay.
Couldn't even go with the Niners.
No, they're.
You don't think Colin Kaepernick's being overshadowed by Russell Wilson right now?
Well, he is for good reason.
I
I was
know.
gonna say, which one of them just won the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean-
Colin Kaepernick's a good quarterback, but
He went to the Super Bowl last year.
okay, is he wearing a Super Bowl ring?
He's not.
Okay,
That was all
so would
conspiracy.
you take Russell Wilson
No, I'd still take Colin Kaepernick over.
going
Russell.
forward? You would take
Yes.
Colin Kaepernick over Russell Wilson.
Yes, I think he's a better player.
Ian,
I'm staying out of that one.
Okay, move on. Let's go to high state basketball. Is this what's up next?
no, let's
One
play
word
the
game time.
let's play the
Oh,
one word
man.
game.
Get calm down. We'll get to
I'm
it.
excited. I have good stats.
Okay,
I
we'll
looked
get
up
to
good
your
stats.
stats. Just keep your cool.
All
All
right.
right, everyone, remain calm. This is under control. All right, let's start with the Marc-Andre Fleury save last night. Eric Carlson had a point blank, almost a tap in off of a slap shot. Fleury reaches up. I mean, barely snags it down. Probably the best save I've ever seen. Cody, one word for it.
Spectacular. No, not changing it.
Okay.
Game saver. Because at that point it was tied at 1. That was a go-ahead goal, and Craig Anderson was pretty much stopping everything he was seeing. I mean, he stopped 46 of 48 shots, so that would have given them a go-ahead goal. So that was a game-changing, game-saving goal.
Ridiculous.
That's a good one.
Just he's down. He's basically almost entirely out of position, and he just out of nowhere just reaches up, snags it with his glove. And if ESPN didn't have such a crazy love affair with LeBron James, that's
Man
number
crush.
1 on the top 10 last night. But either way, it's probably one of the best saves I've seen in a number of years.
Oh, it was absolute robbery. I'd have to say robbery. I mean, going forward, talking about the postseason, if that's the Marc-Andre Fleury you're gonna get in the postseason, and there's no guarantee, but if that's who you're gonna get in this postseason, I mean, that'd be huge.
That'd be huge.
All right, moving on. This one's for our faithful listener Justin Delbert, who commented he'd like to hear us talk about our thoughts about the Duke-Syracuse game.
I want to start with you, Cody.
So
I want to start with
Cody,
you so
Cody,
bad.
give us a word
Give
for
us
your
a word.
for your Blue Devils falling to Delbert's orange.
I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say disappointing, and this isn't even going in terms of Jabari Parker fouling out and all that, and them not actually winning the game. The refs disappointed me. Rodney Hood was fouled on that dunk attempt, and the ref standing right under the basket, swallowed the whistle. No. We all seen it.
I didn't see anything.
You
I didn't watch the game,
No.
but I didn't see anything.
Ian, let's see. That's a foul. Well, in the rule books, that's a foul.
It's in the rule books. It's a
I'm
foul.
just-
In practicality, I mean,
I guess.
it's a.
I mean, but in all honesty, that was probably one of the best college basketball
Yeah.
regular season games I've seen in a while. It was just start to finish, back and forth. I'm really looking forward to the rematch at Cameron Indoor Stadium.
Classic. Just two real good, real entertaining teams going back and forth. Game was just entertaining from start to finish. It was just fun to watch. An instant classic.
Yeah, I'm gonna say spectacular. I mean, That's what you want to see when you talk about Syracuse moving into the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's what you picture right there, a classic game. Duke Syracuse going back and forth like you said. I only got to see probably the last couple minutes and then the
That's the best
overtime.
part.
But I mean that's all I needed to see to say it was an all-time classic. Let's move on. Let's keep it in basketball. Kevin Durant. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous what he's doing this year. What is it? It's 10 plus now games with 30
Well, I
30
mean,
or
his
more
streak
points.
got
His streak
broken
ended
against Brooklyn when he only scored like
because he had 26,
yeah.
26.
but it sat out. He sat out the last 8 minutes of the fourth quarter because
Yeah.
they were up so
Yeah.
much.
And then he went out last night and dropped like 35 or something like that.
So it's like 12 of his last 13, 11 of his
Something like
last
that.
something absolutely. And then the
30,
one where he
he's got-
didn't, it was 26.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean,
So
he's got 30-point games.
Yeah.
And the next closest is LeBron with like 14 or 15.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
just been ridiculous.
Cody,
MVP.
Just outstanding. I mean, he's a guy. I'll admit, and I'm sure you guys have figured this out by now. I'm not the biggest NBA fan in the world. I will tune in to watch Kevin Durant play. He's just, it's fun to watch right now. He's just he's at a completely different level.
BJ?
yeah, I'm gonna say entertaining. I mean, just so much fun to watch him right now. I mean, you're watching one of the best scorers do his thing. I mean, it's just been fun to watch. Let's keep it on basketball, but we're gonna go to a sadder note. The Cavaliers season. Cody, can you sum up that mess in one word for me?
It'll be tough, but I'm gonna say expected. This is kind of what you expected. A Mike Brown team is gonna play hard defensively, for the most part. I mean, they did give up 123 last night to the Mavs, but for the most part, they're gonna play hard defensively and won't have any offense, and that's really what's kept them out. They traded for Deng. It still didn't really help the offense. Kyrie's doing all he can, and there's just nobody around him.
Garbage. It's just they're almost unwatchable. Just they make mistakes that kill themselves. They look lost at times. There's one or two guys that are on the floor that are gonna give you everything they've got, and then after that, there's just nothing. Like there's nothing out there that is like anywhere remotely worth watching. It's terrible.
I'm gonna say Cleveland. It is the most Cleveland team I've ever seen. High expectations coming into the season. You know, you're gonna have a healthy season with Irving. You're gonna have
Bynum's
Waiters,
gonna come back, be the all-star.
Bynum's coming back. You know, Bynum, nothing ever comes of that. There's rumors now that Irving wants out of there. Not to mention how many losses they have. I mean, this is just the most Cleveland team in the history of Cleveland.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to our last one-word topic. Signing days tomorrow morning. Cody, a word?
Overhyped. I mean, what happened to the day of, hey, I'm gonna play for your team, and you shake their hand. Now there's hats being played. There's babies dressing up in clothes. I mean, it's just you haven't even
half the time it's the player's baby.
Well, true. But I mean, you haven't gone anywhere or done anything yet. I mean, for all we know, you could be a 5-star bust. I mean, it's just so overhyped.
I'm gonna go life changing. Up to this point, this is the biggest decision that these guys have ever made. And there's a lot of people who have a lot riding on it. Programs, fans, teammates, you know, families, friends, and the athlete themselves even. It's a big day tomorrow, and a lot of people are going to be watching really, really closely to see how it shakes out. I'm excited for it. I can't wait for it.
I'm going to say media-driven. Cody, all the things you said about being overhyped and everything. I mean, that's a product of the media covering it, because you're not going to sit in your high school gym and pick out a hat for your mom and dad. I mean, they're not going to want to go watch that. I mean, it's a media circus, and there's no guarantee. I mean, you're watching guys put hats on for teams they might not ever play. Like, I don't know. Like you said, they could be a 5-star bust. Ian?
We're gonna move on now. Let's talk a little bit about Ohio State basketball. I know
Ready.
you're excited, but you got your stats ready. You got your numbers ready.
Ready.
Okay. They picked up a huge win over the weekend at Wisconsin. Coming off that little stretch where it seemed like they were really spinning their wheels.
5 of 6.
5 of 6. They had lost. It was a bad stretch for them. Right now they're up 58-52 on the road at Carver Hawkeye Arena. With about 5 minutes to play ish. So, guys, I just want to know, how encouraged are you by the Wisconsin win? And if they do hold on and beat Iowa, how much more of a step in the right direction do you think that is?
I think it's huge. I mean, watching that team when they're in the midst of their 5 of 6 losing stretch, they were hard to watch. They weren't playing hard. They're getting beat by teams where Ohio State might have, and in most cases, except like Michigan State, probably had more talent than the other team.
Penn State.
But like the Penn State, like you should never, ever in a million years lose to an unranked, horrible Penn State team at home, and they drop it. They drop the game to them in overtime.
Nebraska.
Losing at Nebraska, that's just as embarrassing. So at that point, I'm even questioning if they're a tournament team. I'm like, this is so. I'd be so sad to send Aaron Kraft, probably going to go down as one of the best Ohio State basketball players to ever come through the university, and they're going to send him out with an NIT. But I mean, with these wins, with the win on Saturday, they're winning right now still. I mean, if they hold on and win at Iowa and win at Wisconsin, 2 ranked Big Ten teams, that's encouraging. But I want to see them build on those, and I want to see them really perform in March when it matters.
Great. You guys said, really hit that nail on the hammer. It's encouraging, but we still got to remember this Ohio State team has no offense.
Yeah.
This is what's going to kill them. They're probably going to make the tournament, yes. I mean, they'd really have to go in a free fall not to make the NCAA tournament. But this is what concerns me. They only have 2 players averaging double figures. They have LaQuinton Ross and Lenzel Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have Kraft, who's right around 9. He's there. But, not, I mean, it goes beyond that. You win basketball games by making free throws. Ohio State a good free throw shooting team? No. They shoot 69% as a team, and it's tied for 201st in Division I basketball. That
was
terrible.
Oh, as you were saying that, they just did an alley-oop off the inbounds from Aaron Kraft to Mary Williams. It was pretty sick. I mean, it's probably better than Fleury's save in ESPN's eyes.
I mean, so the one, and then they're shooting. They only shoot about 45%, which isn't great, but it's not the worst out there. The one good thing they have for them, though, is that they're only allowing 59 points per game. They don't give up a lot of points, but they don't score a lot of points. So when you play a Syracuse, a Kansas, a Duke, maybe a Kentucky, heck, a Wichita State, Arizona, these teams that score.
When they played Wichita State last year, that was the problem.
That's what I'm saying. These teams that, score, and, they might only have an off game, and you hold them to 75 points. Well, you only average 72.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. It's really great they're in the right direction. We just need somebody to step up and really be the go-to guy.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction for me, but the thing that concerns me the most, there's still a meeting against Michigan State. There's 2 games against Michigan. There's a game left against Wisconsin. There's games against Illinois, Purdue, all these other teams that, are still going to be threats, They still have to play Wisconsin again. I'm gonna hope that they, keep this momentum going. I'm gonna hope they hold on tonight and win. But it's a step in the right direction, but they gotta build on these things. They have to start stringing wins together. Losing to Penn State was unacceptable in my eyes, but they can get back on the right track now with a couple of wins over ranked opponents on the road. They got to start defending, home court a little bit better. But it's a step in the right direction. I hope they keep it rolling.
And you know what can be encouraging for this Ohio State team? At one time, they were a top 5 team.
Number 3.
I think they made it to number 3 at the highest.
They were number 3 in the country.
Now nobody's really looking at them or thinking they're a threat. Mm-hmm. So if they can kind of cruise into the NCAA tournament with not a lot of eyes on them, then maybe they can make some noise. So we'll see.
Let's move to another Ohio basketball team, the actual Ohio University.
Yes.
They're going through the MAC schedule. I mean, they just beat a Toledo team that was 18-3. Really playing good basketball. Ian, are they the MAC favorite? Because with the MAC, I mean, you can have a good regular season, but most likely you're going to have to win the tournament to get in the NCAA.
It's unfair because the MAC does have like 4 or 5 teams in your RPI top 100. I mean, it's a tough basketball conference. I think the most astounding stat to me is I think they've won like 13 straight MAC road games or something like that, which in a conference where it's notoriously hard to win on the road, that's a pretty impressive streak. It's the longest streak in program history for them. The big test is going to be, they have to beat Akron on the road. They have a rematch against Toledo on the 12th. That's another big one to kind of test the waters with. If they can go to Toledo and pick up a win, that's huge. It's a huge win for that team. But when you've got guys like Maurice and Dorr that are just completely dominant, it's going to be tough to beat them. I mean, like you said, it's all going to matter in March what happens, when we get into the MAC tournament. And there's 3 or 4 teams that could really realistically have a shot of winning that tournament.
Right.
But right now you have to consider them as one of the top dogs.
I would put them as the favorite. But like you were saying, Ian, there's about 3, maybe 4 teams. I have Ohio.
Yeah.
You got Akron, who just always, even what they're not even having that great of a year this year. They're so, but there's just the Ohio Akron thing. You never know. And the surprise team coming really into this year, I didn't realize Toledo was that good at 18-3.
Yeah.
Like you said, they beat them in overtime, which is great. But what concerns me is they lost to Bowling Green at home.
Yeah.
56-58, I believe, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So that's what's scary because Bowling Green's only about, I think they're maybe 10-11. They're not that great.
Yeah.
So that shows they're vulnerable and they can lose and it's just, you're right, BJ. The idea of you have to win the MAC tournament or you don't get in, that kind of pressure really might, get to a team.
Yeah, for me it's just a scenario where, I mean, we have to all understand that we're beyond the days of DJ Cooper and things like that where you could almost set your watch that Ohio is going to win at home. Now it's a threat every time. I'm glad they're doing well with it, but they got to start picking it up a little bit.
All right, let's move on. West Liberty was the number 1 team in the country. They lost last week to Notre Dame College of Ohio, a team that they had beaten by 22 points at Notre Dame. And then Notre Dame comes up to the ASRC last week and beats West Liberty. Is one loss a concern for this team, though? Or are you more concerned about the tournament?
I mean, I'm not even concerned about the tournament. I think one loss, I mean, obviously it was a surprise. You didn't see it coming, especially not at home. But I mean, it's not that big of a deal, So what? They don't go undefeated? Oh well, they're still the best team in the country in my eyes. Some nights you shoot well, some nights you don't. That's the risk that you take when you have a team that's built like West Liberty does. Some nights you're on, some nights you're not. What's
that saying, Ian? You live by the 3,
you live by the 3, you die by the 3. And some nights you hit it, some nights you don't. They were lucky that they hit it a lot in their first string of games where they were winning and winning big. And then that night they get unlucky. Oh well, move on, bounce back. It's one loss, no big deal.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned about it either. I mean, this is a team like we talk about the Penguins a lot. They're going to be judged by the postseason. This is a team that's going to be judged by the postseason. I mean, they've gone to the Division Two Elite Eight the past 3-4 years now. So I mean, their performance there is what matters. I mean, they have a team with a lot of veterans like C.J. Hester, Cedric Harris. I mean, this is a team that can win a national championship, and I think that's more their focus rather than going undefeated.
I think it actually helps their focus. It kind of humbles them a little bit that a team that has no business beating them comes into their house and beats them. So you kind of get the, if you don't play your best against every opponent, regardless of the record, you know, you can lose. And it actually, I think it will down the road. It'll eventually help them because every team, for the most part in college basketball, is going to lose. It's how you respond and how you learn from that.
Heck,
So
Iowa or Arizona lost to a team that they probably had no business losing to. So what?
right, I mean, it toughens you up. It's what it does. So,
All right, let's move on to some Penguins hockey. Winding down the first half of the season, going into the Olympic break. Ian, are you impressed with what you've seen so far? Like, what are you impressed with going into the break? What are your concerns going into the break?
I mean, I'm blown away by what I've seen. I mean, it's a team that has been so wrought with injuries, wrought with just half the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins playing on your roster, and they're leading the Eastern Conference. It's impressive to me. Um, I have been blown away with the play of Marc-Andre Fleury. I have been blown away with the play of these young guys who are coming up through the system. I have been, and I shouldn't be, but I have been blown away by the play of Sidney Crosby.
he does that to you.
He does that to you. I shouldn't be, but I am. It's unbelievably impressive what they've done. Just, and I mean, obviously now you get into the second half of the season, the grind continues a little bit once you come out of the Olympic break, but I think it's going to be a good opportunity for the guys that aren't playing on the Olympic teams to kind of take a step back, relax, get your mind off of this game for a little bit, and then refocus yourself a little bit, get back onto your grind, get back onto your horse, and really start pushing towards the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, when they announced Team Canada's roster, I was pretty happy. I know Marc-Andre Fleury wasn't gonna make the team, but I'm glad that he didn't make the team, and I'm glad James Neal didn't make the team because that helps Team USA and it helps the Penguins, giving them 2 weeks off. I mean, especially Fleury getting rode so hard this first half of the season. I mean, it feels like he's starting every game and dominating. I mean, I don't know how you don't go with him. But yeah, going into the break, I'm like you said. I mean, the play of these young guys has just been ridiculous. You would think with all the trades that Ray Shearer has made over the years that the cupboards would be bare in Wilkes-Barre, but no. I mean, all these players coming up. I mean, maybe some of it is playing with guys like Crosby, Sutter, Malkin. I mean, maybe it's some of that, but I mean, they've been absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, they have a 17-point lead in their own division in the Metropolitan over the Rangers. They have a 7-point lead over the Bruins for the best record. I mean, in the Eastern Conference, and they're only 5 points behind Anaheim now for the President's Cup. I mean, to put this into perspective for you guys, 17-point lead, 25 games left after the Olympic break. If the Penguins went 11-14, and the Rangers went 20-5, the Pens would lose the division by 1 game. So as long as the Pens win 12 games out of 25, I mean, they're
well, heck, even if they get like an overtime loss in that stretch,
and that's with the Rangers going 20-5, which they're not going to do because they're not that great of a team. They're only average. I don't want to sit here and talk about how impressed have you been with the Pens. I kind of want to shift the focus a little bit, Ian. Do you think there's a trade coming? You think somebody's we have all these young defensemen. We have, the Chris Letang being sick, rumors flying around. Is there a trade in the works? Do you want to see somebody? Is there somebody you want to see come in?
I mean, I thought last year that Ray Shiro wasn't going to do anything at the deadline, and he goes out and goes crazy. So I'm not even going to try and figure out what the Pens are going to do at the deadline, with the trade deadline looming. I honestly could not tell you. I like the way the team is right now, but I can understand if they feel they need to go get something. I mean, it's they know the team better than we know the team.
Right.
So I have complete faith in Ray Shiro that he knows what he's gonna do. I have complete faith in Dan Bilesman that they know what they're gonna do and what they need to do to get that team to the right spot.
Right. Two things before we move on here. One, I'm just wondering what's going on with the Chris Letang. At first, he was sick in LA. It was one day. I thought it was kind of convenient for them to get Bortuzzo in the lineup against the Kings, a more physical player, mass physicality with physicality. But then he doesn't play at Phoenix, and then he doesn't play against Ottawa. Do you really believe he's sick, or do you think there's like an injury there? And secondly, do you think the Pens need a backup goaltender going into the playoffs, or do you trust Zakhoff in the playoffs?
Well,
Because from what the Wilkes-Barre Scranton people were saying, he's kind of the Marc-Andre Fleury of Wilkes-Barre when it comes to the playoffs. He doesn't have that great track record in the playoffs either. So
I would hope that Bakun will be back for
That's
the
what I'm
postseason.
hoping.
I mean,
I'm hoping.
I mean,
he's skating now, but there's
yeah.
no guarantee. That's what.
Assuming he's not, I mean, it would be nice to get a veteran.
We just kind of ride Fleury. We live or die by Fleury.
But just make your.
He's your franchise
just-
goaltender, so I mean.
just make your bed and lie in it with him. In terms of the Letang thing, I don't think it's as big of a deal as some people want to try
Or
and
is he?
make it out
Maybe
to
he
be.
is just.
I
sick.
think he's just sick, maybe he's just sick. I mean, that's everyone wants to throw out all these possible other scenarios of why he's sick other than he's sick.
Right.
I
I mean, we all know how hockey is, though. Lower body injury, upper body injury.
Yeah,
Sick.
but
Sick.
I mean, I'm gonna say illness is illness.
Okay.
That's all I'll say.
All right, let's
let's
move on.
Let's move on to our final topic of the night. Let's stay in Pittsburgh. With the news last week about AJ Burnett saying he wants to come back. According to reports, he wants to come back, but he's not sure if he wants to pitch for Pittsburgh or maybe another team. Cody, how comfortable would you feel going into 2014 with no AJ Burnett?
I mean, I'd feel comfortable because of. I mean, you have people that have been there. I mean, you have Brandon Compton, who's a young player, young pitcher that played pretty well last year when he was called upon. I mean, you have Tyon coming up eventually. You have Garrett Cole, who's going to take another step forward as the ace of the staff. You have a veteran left-hander in Wandy. You have Charlie Morton, arguably coming off his best season. But with that being said,
You did not say Liriano.
You didn't say Liriano.
okay, and you have Francisco Liriano. I'm sorry. I was naming all these pitchers. With that being said, though, I mean, even Liriano is a wild card. So he had a great year last year, but he's done this before. I mean, we'd like to hope that, he's back on track now.
Uh-huh.
But, I mean, last year Burnett had a 3.30 ERA, which is, I mean, that's really solid for...
Mhm.
He had 209 strikeouts and 191 innings, so that means he's also a workhorse. He's not going to miss many starts. And he only gave up 11 home runs in all of his starts last year, so he doesn't give up the long ball. I mean, he only walked 67 batters last year, which, I mean, compared to Jeff Locke, looks like 0. I mean, he led the National League in strikeout rate and ground ball rate. So it's hard to replace somebody like that. I think we can get through it, and it won't be that big a deal. But, I mean, you're going to miss the leadership, and you're going to miss all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm as productive as he was as a pitcher last year, and I don't want to take away from that because at 36 years old, he did all the statistics that you just said. But I think with a guy like him, his presence, his presence is going to be lost in the locker room more than it's going to be on the field. I mean, he's a guy who came in. He helped turn around the culture. All the pieces were there, but he was the guy that said, no, it's not, oh, we're playing the Pirates, it's a win. It's, oh, no, we have to play the Pirates. He played a really big part in that turnaround. And I think that the Pirates will miss him in that sense more than they would on the field. I think they have a lot of young arms they have so much pitching depth. They used 12 starting pitchers last year, and there's more coming up for the minor leagues. So as on the field production, I mean maybe they wouldn't miss him as much, but in the clubhouse, I mean he's a guy you want to have around.
For me, I think, I mean, obviously you have to thank AJ Burnett. I mean, I think in Pittsburgh you really have to thank him, because I think if you can point to any one guy as the reason the Pittsburgh Pirates have finally gotten this thing turned around, I think it's him. Just always remember, if AJ Burnett tells you to wear black, you better wear black. But I mean, just to see how far that team has come. I mean, and it was an absolute steal that the Pirates got him in the first place. I mean, getting the Yankees to pick up about half his salary when they got him in the deal.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was huge enough as it was, and then for him to come in and be as great as he was for them.
And I could not tell you who they gave up for him.
No.
It was a minor league something.
Yeah, it was something. And I mean, they basically robbed the Yankees on that, and it worked out in the best possible way for them. I think if you're a Pirates fan, you have to tip your cap to AJ Burnett, but you have to understand that it's time to move on now. It's time to go keep building this thing in the right direction. He is the guy who got it started, but now it's time to carry the torch.
I can understand that. I mean, and let's remember real quick here before we leave here. It was the Pirates who didn't match his qualifying offer.
Yeah.
So they knew, when they didn't offer, they didn't match that. They knew there's a potential that he might go somewhere else. I mean, I can understand why you don't want to pay a guy $14 million a year with a small market team, because that's about what he's worth at his age.
Yeah.
And his production numbers. But I was just, what I wrote about, BJ, and I think you'd find a little funny, is that if they would have matched the qualifying offer and he signed somewhere else, we would have got a draft pick. Mm-hmm. And you know how Neil Huntington loves his draft picks.
Yeah, but he can't tie down with a payroll as small as the Pirates, and I know it's gotten bigger as the wins have come, and they've kept good on their promise that they would spend more money as the wins would come. But
we're just not ready.
I was gonna say $14 million for one player
at his age
is a bit excessive.
Right.
I hope he comes back. If he doesn't, I mean, thank you for everything you've done for Pittsburgh. I mean, as a city, for the baseball team. I mean, it's been awesome.
Right. I mean, he'll probably go down as one of the all-time, favorite Pirates of all time, and he was only here 2 years.
2 years.
So that's how big of an impact
I'll just
he's
say,
had on him.
I mean, it was you. For me, whenever I went to the ballpark, I got excited to watch AJ Burnett pitch. I mean, that was something special, and it's something I'm always going to remember.
Thanks for watching, everybody.